When I think about Dorothy Dandridge, there's one scene that always comes to mind. And no, it's not from Carmen Jones or Porgy and Bess. It's An Island in the Sun.
No, I can't go in. I haven't been invited.
In the 1957 drama film, Dandridge plays Margot Seaton, a shop clerk who catches the eye of Dennis, a white governor's aide, played by John Justin.
I'm Dennis Archer, the governor's aide.
After a party at the governor's mansion, Dennis walks Margot back to his quarters. The room is quiet. There's flirting, soft laughter, that unmistakable pause where you might expect a kiss, but when they lean in, they don't kiss. They touch cheeks. According to Dandridge biographer Donald Bogle, the studio didn't want them to kiss. They didn't even want his character to tell hers that he loved her.
You know I'm in love with you, don't you?
For he was white, and she, although portraying a mixed-race woman in the film, was black all the same. Darryl Zanuck, the co-founder and studio head of 20th Century Fox, thought the South wasn't ready to see an interracial kiss on screen. Dorothy would push back with John Justin's support, but the studio wouldn't budge.
You don't seem very surprised.
And thus, this was the trouble of Dorothy Dandridge.
I don't think a black woman has ever paid as great a price for her blackness than did Dorothy Dandridge, because the very thing that got her attention, which was her blackness, her inordinate beauty, and her talent, turned out to be the very thing that was her undoing, because there was not a system in place to take her on to the next logical extension of a successful career.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Dorothy Dandridge.
Island in the Sun was promoted as Dorothy's comeback film. She hadn't appeared on screen in nearly 3 years, not since her breakout role in 1954's Carmen Jones, where she played the titular character.
Hi, Carmen.
Hi.
Carmen Jones itself was something of an anomaly. The film adaptation of an all-black Broadway production was conceived by director Otto Preminger, who accepted $750,000 from Darryl Zanuck in December 1953 to produce the picture. Preminger assembled an all-star cast filled with top talent: Pearl Bailey, Diane Carroll, Harry Belafonte, many of whom had little to no film experience at the time. But everyone wanted the role of Carmen, from Eartha Kitt to Joyce Bryant.
Baby, won't you?
Preminger knew of Dorothy Dandridge, but initially doubted that she had the sensuality for the part. Her previous roles had painted her as modest and reserved.
Well, never mind.
At their first meeting, he called her a beautiful butterfly and suggested she audition for Cindy Lou, the cute, pleasant alternative. And so the story goes, Dorothy took the script home and she returned to his office dressed as Carmen. She became Carmen.
She went to Max Factors, the great makeup place in California, and worked on a new look for her hair, the tousled dark. It said that when she walked in, Preminger said, "It's Carmen."
Preminger was so taken that he scheduled a screen test. And by May of 1954, it was announced Dorothy Dandridge would play Carmen Jones.
Hey, Carmen, how are you going to pass this with me tonight? I can dance those other guys throughout the floor.
T-Bone, you're too little and too late.
The film premiered that October, and by then, Dorothy and the married Preminger had begun an affair. In an interview with the New York Times, Dorothy said, "If Carmen succeeds in really establishing me, perhaps I can build the kind of balanced career I've always longed for. A few pictures a year, recordings, and some sort of permanent social life there at home." The film received mixed reviews, but critics were nearly unanimous about Dorothy. The Call wrote, "Most of all, Carmen Jones is Dorothy Dandridge." Life magazine went even further. "Of all the divas of grand opera who have decorated the role of Carmen, none was ever so decorative or will ever reach nationwide fame so quickly as sultry Dorothy Dandridge." Carmen Jones became a worldwide success. Dorothy became the first Black woman to grace the cover of Life magazine. And in February 1955, she also became the first Black woman ever nominated for the Academy Award for Best Actress. She lost.
Grace Kelly for the country club.
They gave it to Grace Kelly. And I don't think Grace Kelly she was good, but Dorothy was that much better.
After Carmen, Dorothy was offered supporting roles in major studio films like The Lieutenant Wore Skirts and The King and I. She turned them down, persuaded by Preminger, who believed she was too talented and too charismatic to be relegated to a supporting character. In a sense, he was correct. But what Preminger didn't fully grasp was that Hollywood would never let her go further than Carmen Jones had already taken her.
You know, it's not every day that they crown a new queen of a shoot.
Once actresses like Ava Gardner or Grace Kelly broke through, the industry bent to meet them. Even their missteps were met with second chances. Hollywood simply hadn't progressed, socially or politically, enough to imagine the same future for Dorothy.
You can't always expect to get a picture that has many dimensions, such as the one that I've done.
The Hays Code, formerly known as the Motion Picture Production Code, was enforced in Hollywood from 1934 through the late 60s. It established detailed rules governing depictions of sexuality, crime, religion, and race on screen. Among its explicit prohibitions was the depiction of miscegenation, defined in the code as sexual relationships between white and Black characters.
I've never known anyone like you. I never suspected there could be anything like this.
The code also required that films uphold correct standards of life. Intimate relationships outside of marriage were to be treated carefully, and narratives involving seduction or moral transgression were expected to end with clear consequences. For Black actors, these restrictions had structural implications. Because interracial relationships with white leads were generally barred, Black actresses were largely excluded from mainstream romantic storylines opposite major white male stars.
There were some changes made, but the two still weren't permitted to kiss.
She couldn't find enough leading men. You know, when it came time for her next movie, she had a choice of two people that could be with her constantly from a natural selective process. And that was either me or Sidney. And once she played us out, every other picture meant that she'd have to find new people. That meant she'd have to turn to Marlon and Clark Gable and Paul Newman, anybody else who was available. But Hollywood just wouldn't go that route.
Within this framework, opportunities for leading roles in major studio productions were incredibly limited. And Dorothy Dandridge's career unfolded inside those limits. She was beautiful, she was talented, but she was also Black. And a Black star in that system could only shine so bright.
I just want to do good pictures. They can be musicals with not as meaty a dramatic role as maybe what I would like, as long as it's a good
She was
picture.
considered too beautiful to play a maid, the role so many Black actresses were limited to. Yet the sensuality that earned Jane Mansfield and Marilyn Monroe steamy, headline-grabbing romances came with a catch for Dorothy. There were almost no leading roles that fit her archetype, and Hollywood had no interest in reshaping itself to make room for her.
What she did, it looked as if it was really going to open American movies up in a whole new way. I mean, just as Jackie Robinson integrated professional sports, it looked as if Dorothy would fully lead the way to another kind of integration in Hollywood, but it really didn't happen. She opened a door, but they should soon put a brick wall right in front of her.
By the time Donald Bogle began researching her for his 1997 biography, Dorothy Dandridge had become little more than a footnote in Hollywood history. She made 5 films after Island in the Sun. None delivered the future she had been hoping for. By 1965, she had filed for bankruptcy and drifted into obscurity.
It is as though she's sitting right before me at this moment. I never forgot that. This woman wore agony in her eyes, It was in her voice, and I looked at her and I thought, why is she so sad?
On the evening of September 7th, Dorothy ended a phone call with her former sister-in-law by saying, "Whatever happens, I know you will understand." The next morning, she was found dead from an apparent drug overdose.
Though Dorothy Dandridge's life ended in tragedy, her legacy reminds us of the struggle Black actors had to endure, and in many cases, still do.
32 years later, many moviegoers hadn't heard the name Dorothy Dandridge. And if they had, they didn't know her story. Donald Bogle spent 5 years writing her biography, and in doing so came to the conclusion. For the African American community, Dandridge emerged as Hollywood's first distinctive modern heroine. His book, all 752 pages of it, generated buzz from the media, whose interest was renewed in the starlet. Liz Smith recommended the work, stating, "Donald Bogle's massive, magnificent biography of Dorothy Dandridge from Amistad Press, what a saga, what a woman. No wonder every African-American actress and pop diva under the age of 40 wants a crack at interpreting Dandridge's incredible rise and fall."
And a love whose burning light.
She was probably the first singer in Hollywood, Black actress singer, who could act and sing and dance.
Whitney Houston was no longer Little Miss Prissy. In truth, she never really was. By the mid-1990s, the superstar, who had sold more than 70 million albums worldwide, was far removed from the wide-eyed teenager Clive Davis had introduced to the public a decade earlier.
That ain't me. That is not me. That's maybe somebody else. That's not me.
She was seasoned, sharp-tongued, and deeply aware of how she was being consumed and misread.
Either you were too sweet or too sultry, too white, too black, too demure, too demanding, too this, too that.
She was long past being dismissed as Whitey Houston, the nickname Al Sharpton coined amid allegations that she was nothing more than a polished, crossover-friendly creation, a Black woman packaged for white audiences.
Did they not think you were Black enough or something?
Sometimes it gets down to that, you're not Black enough for them.
Whitney rejected that outright. She told Vibe in 1995, "I'm not the one to be talking about Black and white issues, but we all know who runs this whole thing. We all know who's in power, right?"
Whitney Houston is the largest seller of albums in the history of the record business. The first 2 album sales of hers are greater worldwide than any artist in history.
Well, when they saw me as their little princess and figured she's going to marry a white man or whatever. I come from Newark, born and raised in New Hope Baptist Church, all-girls school, mostly white girls, yeah, but what you all may think it is, it ain't. Whoever set up this little story before I got here, it's changed. It's different. I'm not Diana Ross. I'm not. For years, Whitney had been marketed as the pop princess, and many assumed she would follow the familiar path of many Black women who were said to have, quote, transcended race. Even Dorothy Dandridge had been framed that way.
She was one of the people who truly wanted a man to love her, a white man, and have a family and children and that kind of thing.
But Whitney disrupted that narrative almost immediately. She married Bobby Brown.
Bobby Brown.
And while their marriage was turbulent, public, and often painful, it shattered the fantasy the industry had built around her.
What was the fun aspect for you being in a film? Being a woman, being a Black woman, playing a very strong part. I think that's exciting enough.
She began expanding her empire beyond music. And by 1997, Whitney Houston had already starred in 3 major motion pictures.
Frank Farmer, Rachel Marin.
First came The Bodyguard, a global phenomenon that cemented her as a bankable movie star, earning over $400 million at the box office.
This was a lot more familiar to me. The Bodyguard was Rachel Marin and that whole world. I'm familiar with Rachel's world, but Rachel and I are not the same, because if you told me somebody's trying to kill me, you got to tell me once, and that's it.
Then came Waiting to Exhale, a more subdued, intimate adaptation of Terry McMillan's novel that placed Black women's interior lives front and center.
You want to dance?
Why not?
Finally, there was The Preacher's Wife, a remake of the 1947 Cary Grant, Loretta Young comedy The Bishop's Wife, co-starring Denzel Washington.
Hold on. I have an idea. I want to try something new here.
In 1995, just 2 months before Waiting to Exhale hit theaters, Whitney Houston quietly purchased the film rights to Donald Bogle's then unpublished biography of Dorothy Dandridge. Bogle delivered his first draft to Houston in July 1996. And at first, Whitney imagined herself not only producing the film, but starring in it as well. But once the script was in her hands, doubt set in. Speaking to Newsweek, she admitted, "I have the rights to the Dorothy Dandridge story. She was our Marilyn Monroe, and no one seemed to care. But I don't think I'm ready for the role. I don't think I'm skilled enough to handle her life story."
Not her love life, but Whitney Houston has been spending a lot of time these days denying rumors that she is gay.
We're dogged by unattributed and unsubstantiated rumors of drug troubles and heavy cocaine use.
I became friends with Randall Cunningham. Now they got us married. You know, I'm having Eddie's baby. You know, I've come from being a lesbian to a whore. You know, so I mean, I just think they just make you to break you.
Truthfully, Whitney and Dorothy had far more in common than what many people knew in the mid-90s. And that may have been exactly why Whitney hesitated. In her autobiography, Dorothy reflected on the limits of her acceptance, writing, "Whites weren't quite ready for the full acceptance even of me. Purportedly beautiful, passable, acceptable, talented, called by the critics every superlative in the lexicon employed for a talented and beautiful woman. Hurt by the lack of acceptance, Dandridge began drinking and popping pills to ease her pain." That same tension followed Whitney Houston decades later. She was celebrated, adored, and elevated as an icon, yet never fully granted the freedom to truly be herself. Carrying Dorothy's story meant carrying that weight too, not just the glamour. So she was publicly uncertain about playing the role, even willing to give it up, saying, "I heard Janet Jackson wanted to play Dorothy very badly. If I feel it in my soul, I'll do it. If not, maybe I'll let Janet do it."
I admire Dorothy Dandridge a great deal, and if she were living, I'd die to work with her. She was the first Black female sex symbol, and I think she's beautiful.
Famous since the age of 7, Janet had reached a level of visibility few people on the planet could touch. One of the only real comparisons at the time was her brother, Michael. In 1991, she signed a record deal reportedly worth $50 million, making her the highest paid recording artist in history at the time. Her album, Rhythm Nation 1814, made history as the first to produce #1 singles across 3 separate calendar years, and it remains the only album to ever place 7 songs in the Billboard Top 5. By the early 90s, the press routinely referred to Janet as the Queen of Pop.
If Michael Jackson is the king of pop, then it's fair to say his singing sister Janet is the queen.
In 1993, Janet made her major film debut starring in Poetic Justice, directed by John Singleton.
What do you write about?
Whatever's in my heart.
What's that?
And she had no plans of slowing down. That same year, Janet told the media she was determined to bring Dorothy Dandridge's story to the big screen.
When I was just a kid on the show Different Strokes, the crew would ask me, "Do you know who Dorothy Dandridge is?" They said there was something about me that reminded them of her. I thought, what a compliment, because she was flawless.
There was just one problem. She didn't have a script or the film rights.
Rumor that Jackson is upset with fellow superstar Whitney Houston for buying the movie rights to a story about Janet's idol Dandridge. So, was that the case?
Are you asking me if I'm upset?
Of course.
Am I upset that she purchased the rights? No, I'm not upset. It's upset? No, I'm not. It's something that I've pretty much made public for years. I mean, I've been into Dorothy since I was 10. That's when I first found out about her. Since I was 14, I've wanted to portray her in a film. I was approached a few times because of the public's knowledge of me wanting to do this when I was younger, to play a younger Dandridge, and certain things fell through. And ever since then, I've been doing my own research and gathering my own things and doing a lot of studying and
Janet is just, as you know, I'm madly in love with her.
Right, you mentioned
I can't be with her, and it's just.
How much of it is fair to say, though, that there is a natural kind of competition, kind of looking over your shoulder, kind of elbowing with a Whitney Houston, with a Madonna, with other people who are on that same ride?
Oh, definitely.
In December 1995, 2 months after Whitney Houston acquired the rights to Donald Bogle's book, Janet released 24 Play, the second single from her Design of a Decade Greatest Hits album. The black and white video drew clear visual parallels to Dorothy Dandridge, as Janet is essentially playing the actress, enough that MTV News described it as virtually Janet's audition for the role.
Even when I was on tour, I had someone doing a great amount of research for me and interviewing several people and sending me all the footage that they had, just everything. So I've been really doing a lot.
In response to Janet's interest, Whitney said, "She didn't make any bones about it, did she? You know how much she wants to be Dorothy? But, however, I didn't want to be Dorothy. I didn't. I had no intention on playing Dorothy Dandridge, nor was I interested. But, however, the historian who owns the manuscript on Dorothy wanted me to play her and thought, you are Dorothy, you are Dorothy." And these are his exact words. "Nobody else should play Dorothy but you."
Now, I know you've heard about all the controversy. Is Whitney gonna play her? Is Halle gonna play her? Is Janet gonna play her? Is this one gonna play her? I own the manuscript.
As a minority artist, I'm finding that to make my own opportunities, I have to create them, because they're not just sitting out there waiting for me, to go do. I have to be creative and innovative and find a way to make them happen for myself.
Halle Berry was born in the same Cleveland hospital as Dorothy Dandridge, a coincidence that would later feel almost symbolic given how closely their careers would come to intersect. Born 11 months after Dandridge's passing, Halle would grow up not really knowing her place in the world.
Growing up in Cleveland with a white mother, an absent black father, in an all-white environment. And one Saturday afternoon, on the UHF station, Carmen Jones came on. And I was just in awe and just totally captivated.
In the span of just 10 years, Halle Berry had gone from first runner-up at Miss USA to one of the most promising young actresses in Hollywood. She entered the industry through television, landing early roles that emphasized her looks more than her range. Over time, she pushed towards more substantial work, steadily making the case that she was serious about acting and not simply visibility. As People magazine stated in 1996, Berry is exactly where she wants to be, smack in the middle of the mainstream. She had played addicts in Losing Isaiah and Jungle Fever, a journalist in Fatherhood, a slave in Alex Haley's Queen miniseries, and even a sexy secretary in The Flintstones.
That I enjoy working long hours, late nights, even weekends.
Like Dorothy Dandridge before her, attention followed Halle off-screen as well.
I'll keep repeating it and keep coming back and keep telling them this particular article is a lie, because it is.
Tabloids tracked her highly publicized divorce from MLB star David Justice, with outlets like the National Enquirer running sensational stories.
She was hope. I remember when I saw her, I felt, wow, there's someone that I can relate to, who's like me, that I can aspire to be like. She must be successful.
Halle had made it clear for years that her dream role was to portray Dorothy Dandridge on screen. Whitney and Janet wanted the roles and made it very clear publicly, along with other stars like Vanessa Williams, Angela Bassett, and Lynn Whitfield. But the New York Times' Janet Maslin stated, among contemporary Black female stars, it is Miss Berry who comes closest to Dandridge's sexy insouciance and stately beauty.
It's been called the role of a lifetime, and Hollywood's most successful African-American actresses have sought to portray Dorothy Dandridge.
Whitney Houston, Halle Berry, Janet Jackson, Vanessa Williams, among Hollywood's most honored African-American performers.
These women believe that Dorothy Dandridge's story has to be told.
The role of Dorothy Dandridge was widely viewed as a once-in-a-career opportunity for whichever actress could finally bring her story to the screen. Ebony magazine underscored the stakes with a cover story that openly debated which of the actresses circling around the project should portray the so-called tragic star. The public framing often turned competitive, but it also revealed something more structural. There were very few roles of this scale available to Black actresses, which meant that when one finally emerged, it became a referendum, not just on talent, but on access, timing, and survival in an industry with limited room to begin with.
The movie that I want to make, and you're talking about people racing to get it done, I've had this passion for 5 years, and I quietly didn't get involved in the war with Janet and Whitney or whatever that was all about, but I kept quiet and did my own little thing.
In 1996, Halle acquired the film rights to a biography written by Earl Mills, Dorothy Dandridge's longtime manager, and pitched to HBO, who agreed to make the picture.
Well, the real story, the media is sometimes a beast. And they sort of created this image of the 3 dueling Dorothys. And that wasn't the case at all. There wasn't one role to be had. It's not like I got the part. I only got mine done first just because I'm just an actress. They're both singing superstars, and they're a lot busier than I am, probably.
Production began in September of 1998. Producer Robert Katz noted that Berry had been studying everything about Dandridge, saying, "She's a walking encyclopedia."
Dorothy Dandridge is the first Black woman to be nominated for Academy Award in leading lady category. She's definitely a pioneer.
In the years following the release of Donald Bogle's book, interest in Dorothy Dandridge surged. The biography sparked a broader cultural reassessment of her life and legacy. Dorothy appeared on the cover of Ebony, received a feature in Interview magazine, and once again became a name circulating through Hollywood. Nearly every prominent Black actress was linked to the role at some point. In the end, though, only one would bring Dorothy Dandridge to the screen. Introducing Dorothy Dandridge premiered on HBO in August of 1999. Bodecker's review in the Orlando Centennial read, "It's imperative that an actress playing Dandridge have beauty, intensity, and delicacy. Halle Berry has all that. She's sensational in HBO's Introducing Dorothy Dandridge." The film opens by moving between 2 moments in Dorothy Dandridge's life. One is the night of the 1955 Academy Awards, widely seen as the high point in her career. The other is her final phone call with her former sister-in-law, Jerry, the night before she died.
I can't sleep, and I want to talk.
In these opening moments, Dorothy is staying at a luxury hotel and goes to the lobby to pick up her dry cleaning. The attendant assumes the dress belongs to someone else and tells her,
"Owed. Your lady must have paid."
The moment reflects the quiet assumptions placed on her in 1955, that she could not afford the dress or the life that came with it. She returns moments later wearing the gown and replies,
"My lady's going out for the evening."
Only then does the attendant realize he is speaking to the same woman featured on the cover of Life magazine, the most famous Black woman at the time, Dorothy Dandridge.
"Dorothy, the world is watching. How does it feel?"
It feels like Christmas.
The film follows Dorothy's life in a mostly chronological order, beginning with her early career alongside her sister Vivian and her relationship with Harold Nicholas.
I'm staying young and beautiful to the day after that.
Halle Berry is on screen for nearly the entire runtime, anchoring the story as it traces Dorothy Dandridge's rise, setbacks, and final years.
I'm Ava Gardner.
My name's Marilyn Monroe. I'm Dorothy Dandridge.
During the film, we come to know Dorothy Dandridge largely through the eyes of Earl Mills, her longtime manager, whose biography the film is based on. Having read both his account and Donald Bogle's, Bogle's book has more distance and more bite, offering context and analysis that Mills's version often avoids due to him being so close to her.
This isn't a tan, Earl. I'm a Negro, a colored girl. You did happen to notice that, didn't you?
Still, the film follows Dorothy throughout the major chapters of her life. We see her as a young mother who institutionalizes her mentally disabled child, a struggling actress fighting for opportunity, her rise as Carmen Jones, her relationship with Otto Preminger, the woman bold enough to step into a whites-only pool, and later the woman frightened by her own husband.
If I seem a little nervous, this is as big a moment for me as it will be for the winner of this award.
And finally, we see Dorothy as herself, worn down by the same industry that once celebrated her.
Jerry worries too much about me.
Jerry Branton was on set while Halle filmed scenes at the recreated Ciro's nightclub, and she's quoted as saying, "The resemblance is frightening."
Green puss, you make sounds I don't like. I'm telling the phone unit's late again.
You do that, now scratch out the one good eye you got left.
And it wasn't just physical. Halle Berry and Dorothy Dandridge shared a similar presence on screen. The same mix of softness and resolve that made the performance feel less like imitation and more like recognition. Halle is quoted as saying,
She didn't know how to find her place within an industry that relatively had no place for her. And 40 years later, that's still what Black leading ladies face today.
You used to be a beautiful thing. Now you're not.
The film depicts the highs and lows throughout the star's life and ends on September 8, 1965, with Earl finding Dorothy on the floor of her bathroom. How she died and whether it was intentional is left a mystery, as it is in real life.
The fact that she died so soon was a great loss. But what the greatest loss is that her legacy has been lost. And that was the reason for making this movie, so that we won't forget who she was. We won't forget her contribution, not only to the Black community, but to the film industry as a whole.
Harry Belafonte, who starred opposite Dorothy in Bright Road and Carmen Jones, summed up Dandridge's problem as right person, right place, wrong time. But in terms of Halle, you could switch it up. She was the right person, in the right place, at exactly the right time to reintroduce Dorothy to mainstream America. Both from Cleveland, both one of the most beautiful women of their generation, navigating an industry that celebrated them while subjecting them to relentless scrutiny and impossible expectations.
And the winner is Halle Berry and Introducing Dorothy.
On January 23, 2000, Halle would win the Golden Globe for Best Actress in a miniseries or television film.
Tonight, as you honor me, who you really honor is the eminent Dorothy Dandridge.
Dorothy Dandridge spent her career brushing up against the edges of possibility, close enough to touch greatness, but never fully allowed to step inside it. Her talent was undeniable. Her beauty was undeniable. What was denied was the room to exist freely in an industry that had no blueprint for a woman like her. By the time her story was finally told on screen, Dorothy herself was gone, remembered more as an idea than a life.
You do love me, don't you?
That is what made Halle Berry's portrayal matter. Not because it fixed what Hollywood had broken, but because it forced the industry to look back and acknowledge what it had missed.
And here's your chance.
When Halle accepted her Golden Globe in January of 2000, it was an overdue recognition of Dorothy too, a quiet correction decades too late.
What this night will always be remembered for me is the night Hollywood accepted me for more than a beauty, but for an actress.
Halle would make history again just 2 years later at the Academy Awards, becoming the first, and still the only, Black woman to win Best Actress. It was the same category Dorothy had been the first to ever be nominated for nearly half a century earlier.
This moment is so much bigger than me. This moment is for Dorothy Dandridge.
Dorothy once tried to explain the weight she carried long before Hollywood had the language for it. If I were Betty Grable, I could capture the world, she said. That revelation shaped every choice she had to make, every role she was offered, and every boundary she was never allowed to cross.
You know I'm in love with you, don't you?
Yes.
You knew from the first, didn't you?
Yes.
Right person, right place, wrong time. And decades after her death, the world finally slowed down just enough to listen to what she'd been saying all along.
That's all. That's all.